Set up a bit of outreach. David, by the way.
This is
So what brings you here?
That's our vicar from the German
Oh, that's Anders.
That's Anders.
Okay. Yeah, my wife is preaching.
Yeah, they're quite close.
I don't recognise him. This is a new venture.
Distinguished and honored guests, those who were listed on the screen and those who haven't been listed, you are all very, very welcome to this 14th year of the Liberal Jewish Synagogue's multi-faith Hanukah celebration. I have to say it's really wonderful to see so many of you come together as we draw near to the shortest day of the year, when it often feels as though we're enveloped by darkness. This afternoon, we're bringing together, as we have in past years, a microcosm of this great city that we all live in, London. We're representatives of different faiths, races, nations, cultures, languages, and so much more. The fact that we can stand together celebrating our diversity and inclusivity, marking this festival of Hanukah, the Festival of Lights, is a tribute to all of you who have joined us this afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. In a few moments, you will hear about Hanukah, a little bit about its history and significance. But before then, let me just explain the theme for this afternoon, which is a verse from the book of Psalms in the Hebrew Bible. In Hebrew, it's just 3 words: Bakesh Shalom V'rodfehu, seek peace and pursue it. Well, what does it mean to seek peace and pursue it in today's world? The word bakesh, to seek, has an urgency embedded in its meaning. It's not a desultory seek and find, but a very definite and thorough aim. When we've lost something or are lost ourselves, the urgency to find our precious belonging, to find our way back to the path we thought we were taking, becomes a matter of life and death. If you have ever been lost in the Welsh hills or in a forest, you will understand the urgent necessity of finding your way to your destination before it becomes so dark that you are forced to spend the night in the open. So the seeking is vital and urgent. And shalom, the Hebrew word, carries the meaning of wholeness, completeness, peace. But it isn't only a noun, a naming word. It's also a verb. It means to be at peace, or to be in a covenant of peace. In other words, to make peace, and thereby become an ally or a friend. And the psalm reinforces that message of seeking amity, alliance, safety, and peace by concluding, V'rodfuhu, pursue it, go after this great alliance of friendship and peace. I know that is the message that all of us hope for as we bring this secular year to an end, whether it's the war between Russia and Ukraine or between Israel and Gaza, whether it's non-international armed conflicts in Northern Africa and the Middle East, in a number of African states, Asia, parts of Europe, in Latin America, bringing nearly 200 people together this afternoon to celebrate our Festival of Light is a powerful statement and symbol that where there is dialogue, respect, and dignity accorded to each other, where there is curiosity about each other's faith and beliefs, cultures and ethnicities, it is possible to seek amity, safety, and peace among all peoples. Let us never cease in our search and pursuit of those things. And now you're wondering about this festival of Hanukah and why we light these candles on the candelabra. What is it? Well, with a little help from technology, which wasn't really behaving itself, it didn't know the meaning of shalom, And with a lot of help from Anthony, we're going to now hear about Hanukah. The history of the festival of Hanukkah stretches back over 2,000 years to a time of complex religious, political, and social circumstances, perhaps not unlike our own era, of those who want to build bridges of dialogue and those who want to maintain a more extreme or withdrawn position in society. It is a festival which is also infused with a powerful legend about light and a spiritual message that what is important is not might or power, but the light of God's presence among us. Hanukkah may have very ancient associations linked with the winter solstice, but its history is related in the book of Maccabees, a book that didn't make it into the canon of the Bible. Alexander the Great had conquered the Near East, including the small province of Judea. After his death, Judea came under the rule of the Seleucid dynasty. By 167 BCE, Antiochus Epiphanes was king and wanted all the people under his rule to Hellenize. He issued laws and decrees against the Jews and their practices. You cannot worship in your temple. You cannot study or read from the Torah. You must break your dietary laws. And then he did something that hurt and offended the people deeply. He set up a statue of Jupiter inside the temple, and the people were heartbroken that their temple had been defiled in such a way. They fled to the mountains and lived in caves round about Jerusalem. At that time, there was an old priest called Mattathias who had 5 sons. So enraged was he by this state of affairs that he vowed to liberate Jerusalem and reclaim the temple from its defilement. When he died, his son Judah the Maccabee took over. It took many years before the small Jewish army defeated Antiochus's armies, recaptured the temple, and rededicated it with a festival that lasted 8 days. Many centuries later, the rabbis of the Talmud retold the story of Hanukkah with a legend about a vial of oil, its seal unbroken, just enough for one day. But a miracle occurred, and the light burned for 8 days. Since that time, the Jewish people have celebrated 8 days and nights of Hanukkah, the festival of dedication, recalling the dedication of the temple. This story is told from generation to generation, each year at this season, as we light the candles on the Hanukah and recall the miraculous survival of our people. But for all of us here, representing different faiths and cultures, different races and nationalities, its central theme of light in the midst of darkness is a universal theme. The light represents the light of creation, the light of the wintry sun we see first thing in the morning, warming the frost on the ground, or the light of a glorious sunset that concludes our day. It is the light of learning and illumination when we learn something new, the light of the warmth of friendship and companionship when we are lonely. And it is the overflowing light of hope in a future when all God's creatures will be blessed with greater love and understanding. As it is written in the prophet Zechariah, read at this season, "Not by might, not by power," says the prophet Zechariah, "but by my Spirit, says the Eternal One of hosts." It's now my very great pleasure to welcome our principal guest speakers, Julie Siddiqui, MBE, and Laura Marks, CBE. They join us with their own unique, distinguished accomplishments. Julie is a mentor, consultant, and gender equality campaigner with a focus on interfaith relations. Julie has a career in community grassroots work spanning 25 years and has developed a number of initiatives bringing communities together. She is founder of the Together We Thrive network working with Muslim women and is co-founder, together with Laura, of Nissan Hasim, the Muslim and Jewish Women's Network, the only organization of its kind in Europe. Julie is a regular contributor of Radio 4's Thought for the Day and was on the radio yesterday talking about Hanukah, I think. Laura is an interfaith social activist, policy advisor, writer, and media commentator. She has founded and chaired social organizations including Mitzvah Day International and the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust. She founded and chaired the Commission on Women in Jewish Leadership, and in 2020 relaunched the Independent Alliance of Jewish Women and their organizations. She's a trustee of both the Jewish Leadership Council and the Commonwealth Jewish Council, and co-founded Nissan Hasim. Together, Julie and Laura, you have enabled Jewish and Muslim communities to make connections with each other and have empowered women to find their voices. You have both been an inspiration to so many. Please welcome Laura and Julie to the bimah.
Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I begin in the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. I was trying not to get too emotional when Rabbi Alex was speaking there, because I knew I wouldn't be able to speak. But just to really say thank you so much for the hospitality and the love that's already been shown to me, even in these first few minutes, and I've been here before also. Without meaning to name drop too much, we both have just come from Buckingham Palace.
We're not espressos.
For a meeting with the king, no less. And on my way there, I stopped and did my afternoon prayers on a bench in Green Park. On my way here, I went via the mosque, which is why I'm a little bit late, to pray my sunset prayers in Regent's Park Mosque. After this, I'm going to Lambeth Palace. Again, I said, not meaning to name drop too much, to meet with the Archbishop of Canterbury to have dinner and a meeting. And of course, keeping with the food theme, I'm very hopeful that there must be a donut or two around here somewhere. Please God. After Lambeth, I'll head home to see my children and my husband just about and talk to them about the day and hear about theirs. I wonder how many places in the world right now have an event like this happening that we're all part of today. So many people here of all ages, all backgrounds, coming together in this way. For some, me coming here as a Muslim at this time, when we know there is a terrible war happening in Israel and Palestine, doesn't seem to them like the right thing to do. But for me, it feels like exactly the right thing to do. To stand alongside friends, people of all faiths and none, people who have all chosen to be here today, it's very special and something we should never take for granted. Me being here does not at all mean that I have forgotten what is happening elsewhere. Far from it. I carry it with me here. I've carried it in all of those places I mentioned to you already, in front of the King, in my prayers with my family, and with all of you. It's so important that building of bridges, the developing and deepening of friendships, the learning and the growing can't just happen in times of peace, but also, importantly, in times of war. Of course, we wish there were never wars, but when there are, we have work to do. In the Bible, it reminds us, blessed are the peacemakers, for they are the children of God. Of course, it can be hard. It is really hard. It can mean that we will have to face up to things we don't want to. It can mean that we have to listen just that bit more to views we don't like to hear. It means we have to go inwards and question ourselves, what we believe, and how we want to show up in the world, and to ask ourselves, what is it that God wants from me? In the Quran, there is a verse that came to me when I was thinking about Hanukah, and it says, God is the light of the heavens and the earth. The example of his light is like a niche within which is a lamp. The lamp is within glass. The glass is as if it were a pearly white star, lit from the oil of a blessed olive tree, neither of the east nor the west, whose oil would almost glow even if untouched by fire, light upon light. God guides to his light whom he wills, and God presents examples for the people. God is all-knowing of all things. A very relevant verse, I feel, for Hanukkah. In a world where sometimes it can feel like there is more dark than light, we can and must be a candle for each other. We can do that one kind thing. We can listen just that bit more. We can learn and be open to understanding others' points of view. We can stand up for injustice and speak for hope. And we can do our best to not spread more hate. For me, all of that is here in this beautiful sanctuary on this dark December day, right here in the heart of London. So let's not just light our own candles, let those flicker, but let's be the light for each other. Elsewhere in the Quran, we are reminded, people, we are created all from a single man and a single woman and made you into races and tribes so that you should know one another. In God's eyes, the most honoured of you are the one most mindful of him. God is all-knowing, all-aware. What does it mean to know people? That requires effort, whether it be making friends at school or at work or between neighbours. It all requires effort, time and goodwill. It doesn't mean we have to all be the same. It doesn't mean we agree on everything. What it does mean is that we can learn to disagree well, to be there for others, to be open to our own learning and our own growing. The original meaning of the word compassion means to suffer together, and sometimes that is also what is called for. So I once again thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart for inviting me into what I consider to be a sacred space. And I will end with the words from Rumi when he says, "The lamps are different, but the light is the same." Thank you.
So I have to follow that, which is a tough order. And what I thought I would do is, I'm going to speak to you as a Jew. I'm in a synagogue with a largely Jewish audience. I grew up very close to here. I grew up in northwest London. I live half a mile from here. My life has been here in northwest London. I've been here many times. I've been to weddings, bar mitzvahs, you name it. I feel very at home here. And I thought that I would speak to you as a Jewish woman from northwest London, which I think will resonate with many people here and form a contrast for other people who are here who have joined us and are so welcome from other faith communities. So, life changed on October the 7th. October the 7th, until then, you know, we all had our ups and downs. We lived our lives. We as a Jewish community did our Jewish lives. We did interfaith work. We met people from other communities. But everything changed on October the 7th. And we all remember that day so clearly. I don't think I was actually babysitting for my great-nephew that day. My sister said, there's been some trouble in Israel today. Oh, so I'll listen to the news later. You hear it all the time. Didn't really take it very seriously. I think it was about a week later before it really hit me. And when I started to think about the seismic change that had taken place and how it affected all of us. And I think that as a Jewish community, it's been quite isolating. I hear all the time from my Jewish friends, family, neighbours, about how isolated they feel, how alone they feel. In fact, I live in Primrose Hill, and just last week, somebody set up a Jews of Primrose Hill WhatsApp, like we needed another WhatsApp. 68 people on it in a week. Right? I didn't know there were so many Jews in Primrose Hill, but it isn't the point. The point is that the Jewish community felt the need to come together and to nurture each other and to care for each other and to feel held and to feel in the company of Jewish people. As we hear stories about what's going on in Israel, about the massacre that took place on October the 7th, particularly the violence against women that took place, the anti-Semitism as a fallout of all of that, and of course we're also listening to and watching the devastation of the people of Gaza. And the pictures we're seeing of children in particular, women and children, are enough to break even the hardest of hearts. So whilst the Jewish community has been turning inwards in pain, we're also needing to feel the pain of people from Gaza and the pain of our Muslim and other faith neighbours here. Because as anti-Semitism's gone up, and this is something that the Jewish community don't hear much, as anti-Semitism's gone up, Islamophobia has gone up too. Both communities of outsiders, both communities of immigrants, both communities who tend to stick with themselves, different negative tropes about both communities, but negative feelings and negative actions against both of these communities. So that's the context in which we found ourselves. And not only that, people unable to even talk about it, unable to talk about what's going on, because whatever you say seems to be wrong, whatever you say seems to hurt people, and whatever they say back hurts even more. So it's a very difficult position to be in. One of the women who died in Israel on that fateful day, and we didn't even know until weeks later when her body was identified, was Judy Silver. Now, Judy Silver... Vivian Silver, thank you. Vivian Silver. Vivian Silver was a woman who set up, she was 74, she set up an organisation called Women Wage Peace. And 4 days before October the 7th, she ran one of her annual marches with Israeli and Palestinian women who came together to wage peace, to demand peace. And it really sums up this dark, cold, bleak winter here when we think about her, and she in so many ways encapsulates what went wrong. A woman who was working so hard for peace, and it seemed so futile. So here we are at Hanukah, and Hanukah is the festival of light. We have hope, miracles, as Julie said, donuts. I would add chocolate. It's a festival of joy and hope and positivity. So how are we going to marry the two? How do we have such a bleak world and yet find ways to celebrate and enjoy Hanukkah? So as Julie didn't really mention, but as Rabbi Alexandra mentioned, Julie and I set up a charity called Nissan Hasim. And Nissan Hasim means women in Arabic and Hebrew. And we deliberately chose the name because it focused on the similarities between us. So Jews and Muslims have so many similarities, I don't even know where to start. So we are immigrant communities. We are patriarchal communities, sad but true. We eat the same foods. We do the same rituals to small boys. We don't eat pork. We have very heavy family commitments. So many. We have the same scriptures. I had no idea until I got involved and built my relationship and built the friendship with Julie. I had no idea just how similar these two communities are. So as Nissan Hasim, we, I think, have been, over the last 6 or 7 years, some hope in the dark. We share festivals together. We go to each other's weddings. We go to each other's funerals. We share we will light the candles tomorrow at Hanukah. We're going to have a candle lighting for our Jewish and Muslim women, at which we will also pray for peace. We learn about each other's history and our culture and our scriptures, and most importantly of all, we build friendships, we build relationships. And Julie and I have been to each other's houses, we've been to each other's simchas, our festivals, our celebrations, we've annoyed each other a lot, we've been away together, we've been to Poland, and those relationships are the light in the dark. Those relationships are what make it worthwhile, and what we are now holding on to. Now, as Julie said, we have just been to Buckingham Palace together. We would have worn our best dresses anyway, but we had a special reason to wear them before coming here as well. And at that, it wasn't a reception, it was actually a working session. And we were sat at a table of 10 women from different faiths, and we talked about what we can do together to make the world better. Now, that event wouldn't have happened if it hadn't have been for the awful events going on in Israel and Palestine. I think it's a tiny beacon of light in the dark, but it is a beacon of light. And the king came and he was interested and he was thinking about what can he and what can the British establishment do to ease the pain and ease the conflict that's going on in Britain today as a result of the conflict there. So we planned, we shared, we cared, we talked about grieving, and we ate, obviously. And what we have here are our friendships, we have humanity, we have warmth, we are together, and our friendships, particularly as women. I know that this is an audience of women and men, but I have to say, I'm afraid, sometimes those female relationships are particularly strong, particularly when the chips are down, and the chips are down. And I'd like to end by returning to Women Wage Peace. I want us to think about the year ahead. May it be filled with light and warmth and candles and caring, and thinking back to Vivian Silva, whilst she was waging peace, and many women and many men were waging peace and are waging peace, some men and some people were waging war. And what we want to do today is to seek peace and pursue it. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. I really don't know what to say about being in the middle of Buckingham Palace and Lambeth Palace, but we feel incredibly honoured that you have graciously given up your time to be with us this afternoon and to stand together on the bimah, which is so important. Now, you lot are earning your donuts and latkes, and I'm going to make you earn them for a little bit longer because we have some special speakers. We're truly ecumenical here, actually. We're a whole mesh of faiths and nationalities and cultures and ethnicities. So I have, let me just see if this works. Yeah, so we have some special speakers. I'm not sure if one speaker is here, but is Leslie here? No, maybe not. So today we're also going to hear very short snippets no more than 2 minutes each, please, from Janil Shah, from the Jain community of Srimad Rachchandra Mission, Dharampur, from Reverend Dr. Anders Bergquist of St. John's Wood Church, from Karen Buck, MP for North Westminster, from Arvind Devalia, who's Hindu, volunteer at the LJS drop-in for asylum seeker families. His words are going to be read by our member Philippa because his voice is going, and from Udi and Upanya from the Buddhist monastery and who've come all the way from Myanmar. So can I first welcome Jane Neal? Oh, there you are.
Wow, following Julie and Laura is going to be tough, but I shall give it my best. So very good afternoon to you all. I wanted to thank Rabbi Alex for inviting me here to this wonderful space to celebrate the Festival of Lights with you. And I wanted to start my speech with a Jain prayer, which is universally known as the prayer of forgiveness. Kame mi savva jive, savve jiva kamantume, mitti me savva bhuvesu, veram macham nakene. And this translated means, I forgive all souls. May all souls forgive me. My friendship is with all, and my enmity with none. In a world that's so often filled with chaos and discord, our collective pursuit of peace isn't simply a noble endeavor, but a moral imperative. I think everyone present here today agrees that peace is a universal aspiration, one that transcends beyond cultures, ideologies. I think back to the first time I first watched Aladdin when I was about your age. Have you seen Aladdin? Yes? What does Aladdin have? Yes. A genie, that's right. And how many wishes? 3, correct. And my first wish was obviously to be a prince and have a princess and take her on a magical carpet ride. But my second wish, even at that young age, was not quite as eloquent as world peace, but for everyone to be happy and getting on with each other. And the third wish was obviously to free the genie. But for world peace, this is a shared desire. It resides in the hearts of people, not just across this room, but across the globe. And in order to achieve this, the first thing we must recognize is that it's not a passive act. It requires intentional efforts, empathy, and commitment to resolving differences through dialogue rather than discord. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." And if we yearn for a world characterized by tranquility and cooperation, we must embody those principles in our own lives. And that means cultivating understanding, promoting tolerance, and fostering compassion in our interactions with each other, because the pursuit of peace is intertwined with justice. You cannot achieve peace in the absence of fairness and equality. In our interconnected world, the ripple effects of our actions are felt far and wide. Each act of kindness, each instance of understanding contributes to this larger tapestry of peace. And our spiritual guide, Pujya Gurudev Sri Rakeshji, often reminds us that through a small action, we may not change the world, but we may end up changing someone's world. Whether that's on the international stage or within our local communities, our choices matter. It's on us to choose diplomacy over hostility, cooperation over confrontation, and commitment in finding a common ground. So as ambassadors of religion and spirituality, we all here today share a common responsibility as agents of peace to contribute to a legacy that transcends our time, where the pursuit of peace is not just an ideal, but it's a lived reality for generations to come. The path may be challenging, but nothing that's worth having comes easy, and the destination is always, always worth the journey. And with that, I thank you all for having me here today, and I wish you all a very, very happy Hanukkah. Thank you.
Reverend Dr. Anders Bergquist.
Alexandra very kindly said that I might bring a prayer with me this evening, so that's what I've done. Christians will often speak of Jesus as the Prince of Peace, especially at this time of year. Of course, it's title taken straight from the Hebrew Scriptures, from the 9th chapter of Isaiah. And as we prepare to celebrate the birth of the Prince of Peace, I think we're all deeply conscious of how little peace there is in our world. Not simply that there's violence and war and terrorism in so many places, but there's such deep division in the political life of many nations, such a discord in communities, sometimes such division within our own households or in our own hearts. And so I find myself coming back again and again to a very simple prayer for peace, which I'll read in a moment. The author of this prayer is a man called Eric Milner White. He was Dean of Kings around the time of the First World War and after into the 1920s, and then he went to be Dean of York. And he's the designer of the Festival of Nine Lessons and Carols, as we have it in its classic form, sung at King's almost uninterruptedly since 1919, and reproduced in one form or another in very many parish churches, including several churches near you in this area. And he's well remembered in the Church of England as someone who had a gift with words and a strong liturgical sense. And so I'm simply going to pray this very simple prayer for peace by him. And for goodness sake, don't applaud when I go and sit down, because this is a prayer. O God, who wouldest enfold both heaven and earth in a single peace, let the design of thy great love lighten upon the waste of our wraths and sorrows, and give peace among nations, peace in our dwellings, and peace in our hearts. And let us say, Amen.
Thank you, Anders. And Arvind is going to come with Philippa, who's going to be his voice. Thank you for representing the Hindu community, Arvind.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is an honour to be here with you all to celebrate Hanukah, a festival that holds deep meaning, not just for those of the Jewish faith, but for all of us who cherish the values of love, light, peace, and joy. In Hinduism, we celebrate Diwali, the festival of lights, which, much like Hanukah, symbolizes the victory of light over darkness, knowledge over ignorance, and good over evil. Tonight, as we gather to light the Hanukkah candles, we are reminded that light is a universal beacon of hope and positivity. In these flames, I see a reflection of our shared joy, a joy that transcends our different backgrounds and unites us in celebration. As we come together tonight, let us remember that our capacity to love is our most powerful commonality, the thread that weaves through every faith and every heart. Peace is not just the absence of conflict, it is the presence of respect and harmony among diverse groups. As we light the candles tonight, let us commit to being ambassadors of peace, respecting and cherishing the multitude of beliefs that enrich our world. In Hindu philosophy, we often speak of the inner light, the Atma or soul, which is a part of the universal spirit. This divine spark exists within each one of us, guiding us towards righteousness and truth. The Hanukkah candles, with their gentle, steadfast glow, remind me of this inner light. They remind us that each of us carries within us the light that can dispel darkness, the light that can guide us to live with love, peace, and joy. Tonight, as we gather from different faiths and walks of life, we celebrate not just Hanukkah, but the beauty of diversity. Each tradition, each culture brings its unique light to the human experience. It is this diversity that makes our world so rich, so vibrant. Let us embrace this diversity, learning from each other, growing in understanding, and finding joy in the multitude of ways we express our humanity. In closing, I wish you all a joyous Hanukah. May the lights we kindle tonight illuminate our paths, guide us towards greater love and understanding, and remind us that, in the end, we are all part of one human family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your words, beautifully chosen. I must say, Arvind brings much joy to the children at our drop-in for asylum seeker families once a month in the children's section. Thank you for that. We're going to hear from Udi and Upanya now, some chanting from the Buddhist scriptures.
We are thank you, welcome participate community. Now, we will not talk many words, but we want to chant Buddha's teaching, Pali word will not be difficult to understand, but will be peace and your mind will be peace and peaceful your life. So we want to chanting word, Buddha's teaching. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Bhavantu Sabba Mingala Rakhantu Sabba Devata Sabba Buddha Nubhavena Dukhi Bhuntu Te. Bhavantu Sabba Mingala Rakhantu Sabba Devata Sabba Dhamma Nubhavena Dukhi Bhuntu Te. Bhavantu Sabba Mingala Rakhantu Sabba Devata Sabba Sangha Nubhavena Dukhi Bhuntu Te. Sabbidiya Uvesantu Lokoro Govinadatu Madi Bontondraya Dukiriga Yugobhava Abhivarana Dileta Nisa Vodavasayino Sadaro Dhamma Vadandi Ayu Ono Sukhambaram Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu.
Thank you. It's lovely to welcome you both here for the first time to our synagogue. Thank you. Last but by no means least, our very dear friend Karen Buck is going to close this part of the afternoon before we light the candles.
Thank you so much, Alex. It's many, many years since I was first welcomed into the synagogue, and I can say that coming to this event of the lighting of the candles is one of the events I value most in the year. I love being here. And the lighting of the candles is indeed something celebrated across faith, the lighting against the darkness. And it brings us, I think, almost a kind of physical joy, seeing those candles flickering, but of course also a hugely symbolic importance too in the darkness. And several speakers have already alluded to the world being a darker place at the moment than has been for some time. The terrible conflicts from Myanmar to Ukraine, and of course those that started with the hideous atrocities of October the 7th and the subsequent conflict in Gaza. And I know we all pray for an early and just peace and the return of the hostages safely to their families. But I also know from many constituents who have been in contact with me that in the last 2 months we have also seen a community that is much more anxious and fearful now as a result of the rise in anti-Semitism and the concerns that have arisen from that conflict. And I am so desperately saddened by both the reality of some of those incidents and also the fear and the anxiety that feels. And yes, there has also been an increase in Islamophobia, and it is testing our community relations generally, but the Jewish community, a small community, undoubtedly is feeling those shockwaves and feeling that fear. And I can only say that an event like this, a multi-faith event like this, is so important. Again, it's been alluded to that we have to build this tapestry of connections between ourselves at every level, every personal level, every civic level. And I can only say that as an elected representative, and Adam Hugg here, the leader of Westminster Council, there are a number of councillors here, it's a cross-party, and as someone who works very closely with the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, I can just say that we will redouble our efforts, we will do all we can to stand in solidarity with the Jewish community at this time of anxiety, to work at a multi-faith level and with those of no faith to strengthen our communities, and in lighting these candles, hopefully to see our way from that darkness so that we can enjoy and live together in this amazing city, once again, free from some of those anxieties that we know have scarred us so deeply in these last 2 months. So thank you again.
I'd like to invite our Director of Music, Kathy Heller-Jones, to come and curate the lighting of the candles.
Those of you who know the chant for the lighting of the candles in Hebrew, please sing with me, and then let's all read the translations underneath in English. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Chanukah. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You sanctify us by your commandments and enjoin us to kindle the Hanukah light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim la'avoteinu, bayamim hahem, ba'zaman hazeh. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You performed wonders for our ancestors in days of old at this season.
So I'd like to invite first Laura and Julie, who are going to light together the shamas. And now we've got a number of different candlelighters. I'd like to invite the Deputy Lord Mayor of Westminster, Councillor Ruth Bush. You might find it easier to come up this way. Who's going to light the first candle. Karen, the second candle. Bruno Romain and Clementine Martin, the third candle. Udi and Upanya, if you would like to come up. And then we've got Philip and Shoshana with her dad, and Emilia. Your photo op. I'll stand out of the way, and I'm going to invite our scholar in residence, Rabbi Dr. Michael Hilton, to say this prayer.
Hanerot halalu anachnu madlikim. Al hanisim va'al hatushuot va'al haniflaot she'asita la'avotenu. V'chol shemonat yemei Hanukah hanerot halalu kodesh. Ein lanu reshut lehishtamesh bahem ela lirotam bilvad. Kedei lachodot l'shimcha al nisecha va'al yeshuatecha va'al niflotecha. We kindle these lights in remembrance of the wonderful deliverance you performed for our ancestors. During all the 8 days of Chanukah, these lights are sacred. We are enjoined not to use them, but only to gaze upon them, so that their glow may move us to give thanks for your wonderful acts of deliverance.
I'm going to end with the song, the music of which you heard at the very beginning, Light One Candle. Please, please all join in with the singing. All the words are behind me.
Might I just add that for those of you of my generation who may not know this, and who may have heard of the American folk group Peter, Paul and Mary, this song was actually written by Peter Yarrow of that group. And there's a refrain that comes back many, many times, and maybe the children can count how many times we actually sing the words, "Don't let the light go out." And every time we sing those words, which you'll see up on the screen, I'd like everybody really to sing out strongly.
Thank you.
Light one candle for the Maccabee children. Give thanks that their light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when their right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. Light one candle for
bring the pain we learned so long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in. Let anger not tear us apart. Light one candle to bind us together with peace as the song in our hearts. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. What is the memory that's valued so highly that we keep it alive in that flame? What's the commitment to those who have died that cry out that they've not died in vain? We have come this far, always believing that justice will somehow prevail. This is the burden, this is the promise, this is why we will not fail. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears.
Well, thank you. Thank you, all our candle lighters. Thank you to all of you who spoke and who've taken part and led parts of this service. Thank you to all who made today possible, the LGS staff and the many volunteers who even now are preparing the donuts, fruit and latkes for afterwards. And thank you above all for all of you for having the faith in coming here today and attending our service and participating. You're invited to leave by any of 3 doors. 1, 2 is where I do my cabin crew stuff. That one or that one or that one. And those 2 doors will take you to our Holocaust Memorial by Sir Anish Kapoor. If you haven't seen it, any of the doors will take you to the Montefiore Hall for refreshments, but the quickest way is to go that way. And for those of you who would like the LGS traditional tour with Anne and Bob Kirk, together with Susanna, we invite you to remain in the sanctuary after this celebration. Please don't worry, we'll save some donuts and latkes for you. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Please give all our
Very, very good. I remember getting